Okay, we are going to be working in 8-7 today, and what we're going to be working on is what's called difference of squares and how do we factor those, okay? So just to review, in the last chapter, I gave you a problem like this, and you would have told me I would FOIL it out, and you would have said x times x is x squared, x times 4 is 4x, negative 4 times x is negative 4x, and then negative 4 times 4 is minus or negative 16. Now, if you're looking here in the middle, well, what happens with these guys right here? Well, the positive 4 and the negative 4 are going to cancel out, right? And so we're going to get x squared minus 16. Okay? Now, the word difference of squares actually comes from the answer. Okay, difference. Do I have subtraction? Squares. Can I square root? So if I'm looking at this, can I square root of 16? Yeah. Now, you may not quite know this yet, but you can also square root an x squared, right? So think about, there means that there are two of them, okay? Same thing here. There are two of the same factors. We use one of them. We use one of them. So if I'm thinking about, can I square root an x? The answer is no, because we don't take it down to like x to the 1/2, x to the 1/2. If I try to square root x to the 3rd, that doesn't work either. So your square roots need to be like even exponents. So like x to the 4th, x to the 6th, because you can break this down like this first guy right here, you can break down to x squared and x squared. This guy you can break down x to the 3rd and x to the 3rd. So if it's an even exponent, that's good stuff. These odds, not so good, because we can't have fractions and decimals when we're factoring. Okay, so let's take a look at this first one here. So what I'm asking myself first off is this a difference of squares? Okay, so in other words, do I have subtraction? Check. Can I break down an x squared? Yes. And can I break down or do the square root of 25? Yes. Okay, so then you're just going to go straight to your answers. X squared breaks down to x and x. The square root of 25 is 5 and 5. And now if we kind of look back up here real quick, notice the only way to get the middles to cancel is that you need a positive and negative. Well, guess what? That means we have to have a positive and negative up here. So today, a lot of your answers are going to be just a plus, in this case 5, and a minus 5. And that's your answer. And so keep in mind that when we're factoring, we can actually FOIL it out. X squared minus 5x plus 5x minus 25. And again, the middles will cancel out, so we are getting back up to the top. So you can check all of these and make sure you're getting them right. Okay, so this right here, though, is the answer. So just kind of take note, we're working backwards from the last chapter. In the last chapter, I gave you this, right? This is what I gave you right here. And you came up with this answer right here for me. So now I'm just giving you the answer, and your job is to come up with the problem or your parenthesis set. Okay, so we're just working backwards of FOIL. We're like unfoiling or undistributing is what we're really doing here. Okay, so on the next one here, I don't care if the variable's in front or back. Okay, that doesn't matter. So we're going to look, okay, do I have subtraction? Yes. Can I square root? And can I square root? Okay, so I'm going to get 10, right? Square root of 10, or 100 is 10 and 10. I know I've got a plus and a minus. And then h squared will break down to h and h. Okay, so now I'm looking at this guy right here. Again, I'm going to square root. I have a minus, and can I square root? And the answer is yes to all that. Fabulous. So the square root of 16 is 4. Okay, and then h squared breaks to h and h. I have a plus and a minus, and then the square root of 9 is 3 and 3. And keep in mind, again, you can check it if you need to. All right, so now even if they've got two variables, doesn't change what we're going to do, okay? We're still going to square root. We're still going to square root. So I'm going to get 11a on the front and back there, or on the front parts of each of those, right? So the square root of 121 is 11. I have a plus, a minus, and the square root of 4b squared, well, the square root of 4 is 2, and then the square root of b squared is b and b. Okay, so now let's look at this guy right here. So in reality, the first thing we always do is pull a GCF. That is the first thing we do on every single problem in this chapter, and that'll be the one thing you guys don't want to do for me. All right, so when I'm looking at this, we got to figure out, okay, what's the biggest number and biggest variable that can come out? Well, I can pull out a 3, and I can pull out a G. Okay, again, remember we're just taking the smallest g out, okay? All right, so now you're just dividing. 27 divided by 3 is 9. I pulled 1 g out, so there are 2 left. 3 divided by 3 is 1, so minus 1, and the g got pulled out. So now I'm looking at this guy right here and thinking, okay, can I break him down? Is he a difference of squares? All right, so do I have subtraction in the middle? Check. Can I break down 9y squared? Yep. Can I break down the 1? Yep. Okay, so I've got 3g, and then I've got, by the way, the 3g is just right from right there. Okay, then the square root of 9 is 3g, and 3g plus minus. Again, it doesn't matter if you put the plus minus front and back, as long as you got one of each. And the square root is 1. And this right here is going to be my answer. Okay, all right. Okay, so now out of this guy, I can pull a y, I have a GCF, and then remember we've talked about trying to keep that front number negative, or keep this front number positive, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and pull that negative out, and I'm going to pull a y out. So I'm going to pull out a negative y, and so when I do that, I have now a positive 4, I have a y squared, okay? 9 divided by negative 1 is a negative 9 now, right? We're flipping our signs over, and we pulled out the y. Okay, so now I'm going to look at this guy, and I've got, can I subtract, or is it subtraction? Yes. Can I square root, and can I square root? Okay, so the negative y again just stays out front. 4y squared goes to 2y and 2y. I have a plus, minus, and then the square root of 9 is 3 and 3. And that right there is my answer. Oops, wrong way. Okay, so now on this one, I'm going to double check. There's no GCF. Okay, now I double check. Is there a negative in the middle? Uh-oh, no negative in the middle. So if there's no GCF and it's not a difference, right? It's not subtraction. There is nothing you can do with it. So your answer will be prime. And remember, prime just means not factorable. It means you can't do anything to it. Okay? All right, number 8. Okay, so we talked about earlier on that you would be able to break down b to the 4th, right? So we just talked about that right at the beginning of the lesson. So we can say b squared and b squared. Now, do I have subtraction? Yes. So I've got the minus plus, and can I square root to 16? Sure can, to a 4 and a 4. Now, one of the things that we have to be careful of is these squareds now, because technically you can still break down a squared, right? You can still square root that. So now, again, we just talked about this guy. A plus you can't do anything with. So this guy is done. There's nothing you're going to do here. But this guy right here, we're checking it out. Okay, can I square root? Do I have subtraction? And can I square root? If the answer is yes, then you need to go ahead and break them down one more time. Okay, so I'm going to get b minus 2 and b plus 2 here. So I just broke this guy down to right here. It's a plus on there. There we go. And then b squared plus 4 just drops right in because there's nothing you can do with that. So you just rewrite it. Okay, and this right here is going to be your final answer. So just be careful here. When you've got a 4 and you break it to the 2 and 2, just double check. Do you have another one? So you had a difference of squares right here. So you had a DOS right here, and then you had another DOS right here. So difference of squares, I write DOS a lot just so I don't have to write it all out. All right, let's go to page 2. Okay, so again, let's go ahead and try to break this down. So I'm going to get, can I square root? Yes. Do I have subtraction? Yes. And can I square root? Yes. Okay, so the square root of 625 would be 25. And if you didn't know that, just put it in your calculator. You've got a plus and a minus. Y to the 4th goes to y squared and y squared. Okay, now we talked, plus is done, so don't mess with that guy. But this, I have subtraction, so I have to double check everything here. So can I square root? Yes. Do I have subtraction? Yes. Can I break that down? Yes. Okay, so again, the 25 plus y squared just drops. There's nothing we can do with that. And then this guy is going to go to 5 minus y and 5 plus y when you take the square roots. Okay. All right, so now this guy has a different, or a GCF, right? If I look at those, first off, you can't square root So thinking about that, can you square root of 5? No. Can you square root of 45? No. Can you break down an x to the 5th? No, because it's not an even, okay? So what I can do, though, is pull out a GCF of a 5 and 1x. And so when I do that, I'm going to get 1x to the 4th, or you could just say x to the 4th, minus 9. Okay, now I double check. Can I square root? Yep. Do I have subtraction? Yep. Can I square root? Yep. Okay, so the 5x stays out front. X to the 4th will go to x squared, and x squared, again, if you want to put a 1 out front, you can. You have a plus or minus, and then the square root of 9 is 3. And that is your answer. Okay. All right, so let's review that one more time. Pull out a GCF, so I'm going to pull a 2 out. So I get y squared minus 25. Again, you couldn't square root 2 or 50, so you had to pull a GCF. That's the only thing you could have done here. Okay, now I'm double checking. Can I square root? Do I have subtraction? And can I square root? Yes, I can. So I've got 2, y minus 5, and y plus 5. Uh-oh, I made a mistake, didn't I? This should be a 4. So let's change this over. Sorry, that would be a 4. So then when I break it down, I'll get squared and squared. Oh, glad I caught that mistake. Okay, so now when I'm looking at this, again, we already talked. Plus signs are done. We don't worry about that. I have a subtraction, so I have to double check. Can I square root? Yes. Do I have subtraction? Yes. Can I square root here? No. So this right there is your answer. So this guy here is the answer because you can't break down that 5. Okay, and on these last two, what we're looking at is kind of a little bit of everything. So we're going to look at the GCF. We're going to take a look at 4-term grouping and difference of squares kind of all in one problem. So it's a good little review of everything we've been doing so far up to this point. Okay, so the first thing I'm looking for, is there a GCF in all 4 parts? And the answer is yes. So I'm going to pull out a 7. I've got x to the 3rd plus 3x squared minus x minus 3. Okay, so there was step 1. That was the first day that we started talking about factoring. Pull a GCF. Okay, on day 2, we talked about grouping. 4 terms or 4 parts, we group it. Okay, so I look here on this first section, and what can I pull out? I can pull out 2 x's. So I'm going to go ahead and pull out an x squared. And when I do that, I have an x plus 3 left. On the second guy, the only thing I can do here is pull out a -1 and get x plus 3. Now, keep in mind, right, the insides have to match. They do, yay. So I rewrite x squared minus 1, right? Put together your outsides, and then x plus 3. Now, this 7 technically is hanging outside the whole way, so we need to make sure he shows up. Okay, so far I have now done pull a GCF, 4-term grouping where we pull the GCFs out, and now I'm looking, now you have to start looking for, is there a difference of squares here? Oops. So is there a difference of squares? Well, let's look. This guy right here is done because he has a plus. I have a minus here, so then I'm asking myself, can I square root? Yep. Do I have subtraction? Yep. And can I square root? Yeah. So this is a difference of squares. So I have x minus 1 and x plus 1. That's what's breaking down from there. Okay, so this guy right there, like I said, this is a DOS right there. Okay, all right, and then I have the x plus 3 just drops in, and the 7 is going to drop in front. And this right here is your answer. Now, that's an intense problem. That has a lot of stuff in it, okay? But like I said, it's a good little review of everything we've done up to this point. Okay, so let's go to the next problem here. Okay, so first thing I'm looking for is a GCF. Well, in this case, I don't have a GCF, all right? So I'm going to go ahead and group, keep that negative with that 50, right? On the first part here, I'm going to pull out an m squared and get 2m plus 1. On the second part here, I'm going to pull out a -25, and that's going to turn it to a 2m plus 1 here as well. Okay, again, we're just dividing. So now double check, your insides match. Yes, they do. So let's do a rewrite. M squared minus 25, and then you've got 2m plus 1. Okay, now We have already talked. Pluses are done. We don't mess with that, but I do have subtraction here, so I'm checking. Can I square root? Yep. Can I square root? Yep. And do I have subtraction in the middle? Yep. So I'm going to get m minus 5, m plus 5, because that's a difference of squares, and then the 2m plus 1 just drops in. Okay? All right, and that is your final answer. Okay, this concludes notes for lesson 8-7, difference of squares.